Humans have always been fascinated by the ocean. After all, even today, we're not totally sure what lies beneath the waters that cover more than 71% of the Earth's surface. So it's no wonder that storytellers throughout history have populated those dark, unknown waters with all sorts of giant monsters. Some of these sea monsters are so massive that they can lay waste to entire cities, while others are no bigger than the creatures that actually live in the ocean. So, join us for today's video as we look at the 15 most widely terrifying sea monsters that have stunned the world. Number 15. Beluska. Some legends come wrapped in just enough truth to make them dangerous. The Beluska is one of those. Said to haunt the underwater caves of the Bahamas, particularly the blue holes of Andros Island, Beluska isn't your average sea monster. It's a brutal hybrid, half octopus, half shark, and rumored to reach lengths of over 75 feet. It's the sort of creature that doesn't need exaggeration to feel terrifying. We mean, just look at that 2080 horror game monster. Divers have gone missing in those waters, and sudden violent whirlpools have been blamed on something lurking below. Some claim to have seen enormous tentacles lash out of the deep, dragging victims under in seconds. Whether it's a massive octopus, an undiscovered species, or just a legend-grown teeth, one thing's certain: locals don't treat it like a fairy tale. The ocean hides its secrets well, and the Beluska is a shadow that never quite leaves the surface. It doesn't roar or rampage, it waits. And if the stories are even half true, it's never hungry for long. Number 14. The Bloop. In 1997, something deep in the South Pacific emitted a sound so loud that it was picked up by underwater microphones over 3,000 miles apart. It wasn't a whale. It wasn't geological. It wasn't anything science could explain. So, naturally, it got a name: the Bloop. But despite the almost playful title, the implications were anything but. The sound came from somewhere near Point Nemo, the most remote ocean location on Earth. That's not just far from land. It's where dead spacecraft are sent to crash because nothing lives out there. Supposedly, yet something massive moved through those waters and made a sound no known creature could replicate. It was organic, deep, and vast, far louder than any living animal ever recorded. Some say it was ice shifting. Others say that's a cover. The ocean's deeper than Everest is tall, and no submersible has touched its bottom. If something lives in that pressure and dark, we wouldn't hear it clearly. Unless, of course, it wanted us to. Our oceans are not just vast, they're terrifying. Number 13. The Leviathan. Long before ships had radar or sailors had sanity, there was the Leviathan, not just a sea monster, but a cosmic threat. A creature from biblical and Mesopotamian texts that wasn't bound by logic, only by scale and fear. It was said to churn oceans with a flick of its tail, breathe fire from its nostrils, and crush ships like they were paper toys. But the Leviathan wasn't just a legend, it was symbolism turned living nightmare. The Book of Job describes it as untamable, armored in impenetrable scales, a living fortress of wrath beneath the sea. Some link it to the whale, others to crocodiles or even extinct sea reptiles like mosasaurs. But none of those does the myth justice. It wasn't just a beast, it represented chaos itself. Sailors who vanished without a trace, blamed on the Leviathan, storms that came from nowhere. Leviathan, it was the thing you feared when the horizon went black and the sea stopped answering, and maybe still is. Number 12. Cadborosaurus. Off the misty coastlines of the Pacific Northwest, a long-bodied, serpent-like creature has been spotted so often that it earned a name: Cadborosaurus, or Caddy for short. Stretching an estimated 40 to 70 feet, with flippers, a horse-like head, and a ridged back, this thing doesn't exactly scream ordinary seal. Indigenous Haida and Tlingit oral histories mention a similar beast long before colonists started sketching what they saw near British Columbia. Now, like always, as they do, skeptics brush it off as misidentified whales, sea lions, or drifting debris, but that doesn't explain the consistent reports, or the carcasses. Over the last century, bizarre remains have washed ashore, sometimes with eel-like bodies, other times with heads no marine biologist could identify. The ocean doesn't leave things intact, but it also doesn't generate myths out of nothing. Whether Cadborosaurus is a surviving relic from another era, or an undiscovered species that surfaces just enough to keep its legend alive, it remains one of the ocean's most persistent mysteries, and it hasn't stopped showing up. Number 11. The Ningen. In the frozen black void near Antarctica, Japanese fishing vessels began reporting something disturbing. A pale, humanoid figure, easily 60 feet long, was drifting just below the surface. It had arms, it had a face, it had no name, so it got one. Ningen, meaning human in Japanese. It wasn't playful mythology, it was whispered among crews, described in hushed tones back on land. Eyewitnesses claimed to see something moving unnaturally through the Southern Ocean, surfacing like a ghost and vanishing just as fast. Some say it walks on the seafloor. Others claim it can mimic shapes, but it's always pale, always massive, and always eerily silent. What terrifies me most isn't its size, it's how human it looks. Government files, redacted, images, blurry at best, but the stories don't go away. Whether it's an undiscovered marine giant or something stranger altogether, the Ningen doesn't fit into any scientific box. It just exists at the edge of reason, where the sea swallows light and maybe sanity too. Alright, now let's talk about number DC, Scylla. Greek mythology rarely played nice, and Scylla is a prime example. Not a metaphor, not a misunderstood creature, just a pure nightmare. Perched in a rocky cliff opposite the whirlpool Charybdis, Scylla was described as having 12 feet, 6 long necks, each ending in a snarling head with triple rows of razor teeth. Her lower half bristled with snarling dog heads sprouting from her waist, and her job was simple: eat anything that passed too close. Homer's Odyssey didn't leave room for sympathy. She didn't roar warnings. She didn't hesitate. When ships came near, she reached out and plucked sailors off decks like fruit, swallowing them whole while the others screamed. Some scholars say Scylla represents natural sea hazards, treacherous rock formations, or sudden predatory attacks, but sailors treated her as very real. They feared the scream in the wind and the shadows between waves. Scylla wasn't a beast you fought, she was a sentence. If you sailed too close, you didn't drown. You disappeared. Fast, brutal, and without reason. Number 9. Hydra. Few sea monsters have been etched into collective fear quite like this. Not the pop culture version from comics or video games, the real one from the old myths, the one said to rise from the swamps of Lerna with venomous breath, acid blood, and multiple regenerating heads. Cut one off, and two grew in its place. Its body was coiled and serpentine, and it didn't just kill, it polluted. Water near its lair was said to become deadly. Animals died trying to drink it. The Hydra wasn't a creature you ran from, it was one you never approached. Hercules was sent to kill it as one of his 12 labors, and even he barely survived. Some say the story reflects a toxic swamp or a plague, but the details don't feel symbolic. They feel like warnings. The Hydra didn't come from the sea to conquer, it stayed hidden, letting fear do the work. The idea that something poisonous, unkillable, and always watching still lives underwater, that's what gives the legend its teeth. Number 8. Trunco. It washed ashore in 1924, white, furry, limbless, and over 45 feet long. Locals called it Trunco. But what really froze everyone wasn't its appearance, it was what people claimed it did. Witnesses said they saw it battling 2 killer whales off the coast of Margate, South Africa. Not swimming, fighting, leaping out of the water like a torpedo, slamming down on the whales with a tail. No one could explain. The story hit newspapers under the headline, "Fish like a polar bear," and then as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. The body washed away before scientists could inspect it, and all that remained were grainy accounts and whispers. Some think it was a decayed whale carcass. Others say it was a globster, misshapen in death. But nothing about Trunco followed the script. Its color, its fur, its behavior, it didn't match anything. That's what makes it terrifying. It didn't just show up and die, it fought something powerful, and for a moment, it won. Number 7. Oarfish. When sailors spoke of sea serpents hundreds of feet long, eyes like dinner plates, bodies like silver ribbons, they weren't exaggerating. They were seeing oarfish. These aren't myths. They're real, and they're strange in every way that matters. Oarfish can grow over 30 feet long, making them the longest known bony fish on Earth. They live so deep, over 3,000 feet down, that they're rarely seen alive. When they are, it's never peaceful. Oarfish tend to surface only when something's wrong. Water disturbances, seismic activity, or some believe before earthquakes. In Japanese folklore, their appearance is considered a harbinger of disaster. The way they move doesn't help, undulating like a ribbon in slow motion, with a head that looks straight from an alien autopsy. Their dorsal fin runs the entire length of their body, and their reflective, metallic skin gives them a ghost-like shimmer. They're not monsters in the aggressive sense, but when they drift toward the shore, nobody celebrates. It's like the deep sea sending up a warning sign. Number 6. The Black Demon. Off Mexico's Baja California peninsula, fishermen tell stories they don't tell twice. Stories about a black shadow the size of a bus gliding beneath the hull, tipping boats with its wake, and disappearing before anyone dares drop a line. They call it El Demonio Negro. Believed to be a surviving megalodon or an unknown species of massive shark, it's described as darker than any known fish, with jagged fins and a presence that empties entire patches of sea. Unlike great whites, it doesn't circle or test. It hits hard, then vanishes. Some reports claim it spans over 60 feet, with a tail that rises like a submarine's periscope, and yet, no official sightings. No clear footage, just frightened eyes and broken gear. Local legends say it guards something beneath the Gulf, an old fault or something deeper. Whether it's a prehistoric predator or a story shaped by fear and rough tides, the Black Demon keeps its territory and doesn't tolerate visitors. Number 5. Umibozu. Sailors off the coast of Japan know better than to get too cocky in calm waters. That's when the umibatsu strikes. Described as a massive, shadowy humanoid figure rising from the sea, it appears without warning, towering over the mast of a ship, silent at first. Then it demands a barrel. Give it one, and it smashes your vessel to splinters. Refuse, and it drags you down. The only known trick to escape: hand over a bottomless barrel, something it can't use, and escape while it's confused. Some say that umibatsu are drowned spirits, angry monks, or gods rejected by the land. But they're always enormous, always black, always faceless. Their heads breach the surface like monstrous silhouettes, and the waters churn dead still. The worst part, they don't roar or scream. They arrive in silence, just rising, looming, and waiting. Few who encounter one survive. Those who do never sail comfortably again. Because once you've seen the ocean stand up, every wave starts to look like a shoulder. All right, guys, now, let's move to number Veer, Tizaruk. In the chilling waters of the Arctic, the Inuit speak of a creature that strikes without warning, the Tizaruk. It slithers through the icy currents near the shoreline, serpent-like with a massive fish-like head and a tail powerful enough to drag prey into the depths in seconds. Some say it has a flippered body. Others describe feathered scales and an eerie, silent glide beneath the surface. What unites the stories is how it hunts, fast, unseen, and final. People disappear, not sailors. People on the shore. It doesn't ram boats or circle ships. It waits near docks, rock outcrops, and ice edges, places you assume are safe. Then it strikes. Some compare it to a prehistoric plesiosaur. Others think it's a surviving sea serpent from an older world. But no one doubts the fear it inspires. The sea around Alaska, shrouded in fog and isolation, doesn't give up many answers. But the Tizaruk doesn't ask questions. It takes what it wants and vanishes back into silence. Number 3. Devil whale. It looked like an island. Calm, unmoving, massive. Sailors would land on it, light fires, drop anchor, and then it would move. The devil whale is a legend as old as wooden ships and salt-worn maps. Described in medieval bestiaries and sailors' journals, this beast was said to be so large that it mimicked land itself. But when disturbed, it would dive, dragging everything with it. Entire crews, whole ships, gone in moments. Some believe the myth came from actual whale sightings, the size exaggerated, the behavior twisted by fear, but others note the consistency of the stories across continents, across centuries. Black skin, barnacle-covered back, an eye the size of a cannon port. Sailors didn't just fear storms, they feared the calm. Because that's when you might anchor on something that's breathing. It wasn't hostile in the way other monsters were. It didn't chase. It didn't roar. But when it moved, it rewrote the ocean around it. Number 2. Bunyip. Australian legends don't deal in subtlety, and the bunyip is proof of that. Said to haunt rivers, swamps, and billabongs, this creature doesn't have one fixed form. Some say it has a dog-like head and flippers. Others claim it's part crocodile, part ox, with glowing eyes and a scream that freezes blood. Aboriginal lore describes it as a spirit of punishment, something that waits in still waters and punishes those who wander too close. It doesn't chase, it doesn't roar, it drags, silent, sudden, fatal. Early European settlers dismissed it as myth until bones and remains surfaced that didn't match any known animal. Fossils of long-extinct marsupials fueled the mystery, but the sightings never stopped. Campers vanished. Cattle were found torn to shreds near muddy riverbanks. What makes the bunyip especially terrifying isn't just what it might be, it's where it hides. Not in the open sea, but in the quiet, familiar waters you stop near to rest. That's when it waits. That's when it pulls. Number 1. The colossal squid. The ocean doesn't hand out its monsters easily. The colossal squid, though, it doesn't hide. It just waits. Found mostly in the freezing depths around Antarctica, it's bigger than any living squid ever recorded, with the largest eyes of any animal on Earth, about the size of dinner plates. Its tentacles aren't just long, they're armed with swiveling hooks. And trust us, that's not an exaggeration. Actual hooks, rotating and razor-sharp, embedded in its suckers. Unlike the more agile giant squid, the colossal version is bulkier, slower, and far more terrifying. The first specimens weren't seen until the late 20th century, and even now, most of what we know comes from dying individuals caught in trawls or half-digested remains found in sperm whales. It doesn't flash, it doesn't thrash, it drifts in the dark, waiting. And when it does move, it wraps its prey in a crushing embrace lined with hooks and teeth. If monsters have a shape under the ice, this one fits it. Not rage, just cold, quiet power. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.